10 Richest Royals in History. Thank you to MyHeritage for sponsoring this video. You may have heard someone with wealth beyond imagining described as rich as Croesus. But in reality, the 6th century Greek king didn't even crack the top 10. Throughout history, the person who sat on the throne had incredible power to collect tiny portraits of themselves. Let's count down the 10 richest royals of all time. Learn what their net worth was, converted to modern currency and adjusted for inflation. Find out how they made their billions and trillions and what they spent it on. Number 10. Catherine the Great, Empress of Russia, $1.9 trillion. Born Princess Sophia of Anhalt-Zerbst into a minor German royal family in 1729. She lucked out with a marriage to the future Emperor Peter III of Russia. Unfortunately, her hubby was an abusive, inept, and impotent alcoholic who was despised by his people. Catherine, or Ekaterina, as she was known after her conversion to Russian Orthodoxy, endeared herself to her new people. She gained favor and support to overthrow her horrible husband and take the throne for herself. While in prison, Peter died, officially from hemorrhoids, but more likely he was strangled by Catherine's latest lover. For her coronation, she needed a magnificent crown to reinforce her divine right to rule. She had a new whopper designed with 4,936 diamonds, 37 large pearls, and the golf ball-sized Menshikov ruby, the second largest spinel in the world. The imperial crown of Russia is estimated to be worth $800 million. Once on the throne, Catherine set her armies out to expand the Russian Empire. They conquered Crimea and parts of Poland. At 8.8 million square miles, Catherine's empire was the third largest in history, after the British and Mongol empires. Under her leadership, Russia emerged as a major European power. With all that land came a great deal of wealth. Catherine was an enlightened despot. She wanted to improve the lives of her people, whether they liked it or not. She sent plans to her government to abolish serfdom, torture, and the death penalty, but they balked at her radical changes. Catherine came to realize that ending serfdom would topple the Russian economic system and her own crown, so she walked back many of her reforms. But she did make some changes by imperial decree. She opened hospitals for the poor, schools for orphans, and promoted education for women. Catherine introduced paper money and opened numerous banks, further growing her nation's wealth. The Tsarina controlled 5.4% of global GDP. In today's money, that's $1.9 trillion. As wealthy male monarchs enjoyed ample sexual opportunities, so did Catherine. She had numerous handsome lovers. As she got older, they stayed the same age. When she grew bored of one, she sent him off with a generous allowance, and sometimes titles and castles. She made one ex-boyfriend king of Poland. Catherine died of a stroke in 1796 at the age of 67. Her son Paul set out to destroy her reputation and burned her papers and journals in case she had written him out of her will. He worshipped the man he believed was his father, Peter, and gave his long-dead corpse a grand funeral instead of his mother. Then he buried the two together and banned women from ever sitting on the Russian throne again. Ironically, the Russian Empire would never again reach the heights it had under Catherine. Whether your ancestors were rich royals or poor peasants, or like mine, a bit of both, discovering who they were is endlessly fascinating. So I built a family tree using MyHeritage. It's the #1 service for family history research, with over 90 million users. MyHeritage puts over 36 billion historic records at your fingertips. I did genealogical research on my own 15 years ago, before I knew about MyHeritage. And while it was fun, it took a ton of work and time to dig up the names of my ancestors the old-fashioned way. All you need to get started with MyHeritage are the Magic 7. Yourself, your 2 parents, and your 4 grandparents, their birthplaces and dates. From there, MyHeritage uses instant discoveries to find even more generations of your family. You can add new branches with one click. And look at historic records, like this 1910 census, which includes my great-grandparents. Before, I'd hit a dead end on one of my branches. But with MyHeritage, I discovered my 4 times great-grandparents, who were born in Alsace-Lorraine in 1877. MyHeritage has some amazing photo features too. You can repair, colorize, and animate old family photos to give them new life. Colorized photos, family trees, and memberships to MyHeritage make amazing and unique gifts. My grandparents love the family tree I gave them for Christmas. Discover your own family history. Click the link in the description or use the QR code to get a 14-day free trial of MyHeritage. And now, back to history. Number 9. Alexander the Great, King of Macedonia, $2.2 trillion. Another, the Great, was born in 356 BCE to King Philip II of Macedonia. Alexander stood out amongst his brothers as both a promising warrior and a brilliant mind. His tutor was the great philosopher Aristotle. When he was 20, his father was assassinated, and he became king. First, he made an example of those who had murdered his pops. Then he secured control of Greece. Next, Alexander turned his view eastward. With his superior military might and strategy, he conquered the Persian Empire. Alexander continued to march his army through the Middle East, Egypt, and Asia, conquering lands as he went. He often renamed cities in his own honor, which is why the area is littered with Alexandrias and Alexandropolises. Alexander next turned his sights on the Indian subcontinent, where again his army dominated. He amassed the largest empire the world had ever seen. All that land meant a lot of wealth. It is estimated that Alexander's conquests equated to $2.2 trillion today. By this time, he hadn't been back to Macedonia in many years. His army had grown tired of constant bloodshed and marching ever further from home, and they began to mutiny. The king had little choice but to set course for home. But he took the scenic route and continued to beat new lands into submission on the way. En route, his longtime friend and probable lover, Hephaestion, died of fever. The king was devastated and drowned his sorrows in wine. At the age of 32, at the height of his power, Alexander died, either from binge drinking or from wine poisoned by one of his countless enemies. His wife, Roxana, secured her son, Alexander's ascent to the throne. But without Alexander the Great's strong leadership, the empire and the fortune soon fell apart. Number 8. King Solomon of Israel, $3.9 trillion. Solomon was born in the 10th century BCE, the son of King David of the 12 tribes of Israel. His reign is hypothesized to have lasted from 970 to 931 BCE. According to the Bible, Solomon was famed for his mines, which produced 25 tons of gold each of the 39 years of his reign. Solomon was said to have been a wise and powerful ruler who wrote the biblical books of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs. His reign brought commercial prosperity to Israel through alliances and trade. One legend tells that the Queen of Sheba, likely an African ruler, heard of Solomon's wealth and wisdom and came to visit him. She brought with her gifts of gold, spices, and precious stones. When Solomon gave her, quote, all she desired, whatever she asked, including a baby, she left satisfied. Solomon's wealth has been estimated at $3.9 trillion today. According to the Bible, his vain accumulation of wealth, horses, and foreign wives, many of whom introduced idolatry to Israel, led to divine punishment. When he died, his son, Rehoboam, took the throne. But his harsh policies led to northern Israelites rejecting David's line and following Jeroboam, splitting the kingdom into Israel in the north and Judea in the south. While most scholars accept the evidence that Solomon was a real historic king, many are skeptical that the Bible might have exaggerated his wealth. Number 7. Caesar Augustus, Roman Emperor, $4.9 trillion. Born Gaius Octavius in 63 BCE, he was part of a powerful equestrian family in the Roman Empire. His maternal great-uncle, Julius Caesar, adopted him and named him his heir, per Roman tradition. Thus, in 44 BCE, when Caesar was assassinated, 19-year-old Octavian inherited his name, vast estate, incredible wealth, and the loyalty of his legions. He joined forces with powerful generals Mark Antony and Marcus Lepidus, and together they defeated the senators who had assassinated Caesar. Following victory at the Battle of Philippi, they divided the Roman Republic amongst themselves. But peace didn't last, as the ambitious triumvirate turned on each other. Lepidus was exiled. Octavian sent his navy to Egypt to defeat Mark Antony. When he and his new bride, Queen Cleopatra, knew that they were beat, they took their own lives. The last man standing, Octavian, restored the Senate, and the senators had little choice but to grant him a lifetime tenure as commander-in-chief, tribune, and censor. Thus he became the first official Roman emperor and took the name Caesar Augustus. He dramatically enlarged the empire, annexing Egypt, expanding possessions in Africa, and completing the conquest of the Iberian Peninsula. However, his attempt to conquer Germania was a failure. Augustus built networks of roads with an official courier system, established a standing army, the Praetorian Guard, and police and firefighting services in Rome. He rebuilt much of the capital, including the Forum of Augustus and the Temple of Apollo. All this construction cost a lot of coin, so Augustus reformed the Roman tax system. He commanded that a census be taken, so he would know who owed him what. This was a key plot point in the biblical story of the Nativity, as Mary was traveling with her husband Joseph to his birthplace, Bethlehem, to answer to the census, when she delivered Jesus. Augustus's reign ushered in the era of peace, called Pax Romana. The Roman Empire produced around 30% of the world's global output, and 1/5 of that was the emperor's personal property, meaning Augustus had a net worth of $4.9 trillion today. He died in 14 CE, age 75, probably of natural causes, though there were rumors that his wife, Livia, poisoned him to clear the throne for her own son, Emperor Tiberius. Number 6. Julius Caesar, Roman Dictator, $5.4 trillion. Gaius Julius Caesar was born in 100 BCE into a noble Roman family. He joined with Croesus and Pompey to form the first triumvirate, and together they dominated the political scene. Caesar, considered today one of the most brilliant military commanders in history, led his army to a string of victories in the Gallic Wars. He greatly extended Roman territory and his own wealth and power. During these campaigns, he built a bridge across the River Rhine, invaded Britain, and looted the best treasures from those he defeated. But he had enemies in the Senate, primarily Pompey, who ordered him to step down from his command and return to Rome. Caesar openly defied the Senate by crossing the Rubicon River and marching towards Rome at the head of the army. The resulting civil war saw Pompey defeated and Caesar in a position of unchallenged power and influence. He assumed control of the government and set upon vigorous reform and building programs. He increased the size of the Senate, reduced the size of the grain dole, settled military veterans in new overseas colonies, and extended citizenship in Spain and Italy. He reformed the ancient convoluted lunar calendar into the 365-day solar Julian calendar, which is very close to what we use today. He renamed the 7th month, that of his own birth, to July in his own honor. Not to be outdone, his successor, Augustus, named the 8th month after himself. Julius was proclaimed dictator for life. His cognomen, Caesar, which was a family name of unknown origin, later became synonymous with emperor. The title Caesar was used throughout the Roman Empire and later inspired the German title Kaiser and Russian title Tsar. But Caesar was not without opposition. A group of 60 senators, led by Brutus and Cassius, mobbed him on the Senate floor and stabbed him 23 times. While Augustus Caesar inherited the lion's share of his great-uncle's $5.4 trillion fortune, a quarter of the estate was used to pay each male Roman citizen, around 1 million men, 300 sesterces each, the equivalent of 10 years' wages. Number 5. Amenhotep III, Pharaoh of Egypt, $7.3 trillion. Amenhotep was born around 1401 BCE. He was the son of Pharaoh Thutmose IV, though he later claimed that his real father was the god Amun, who had taken the form of the unsuspecting pharaoh in order to sire a child with his royal concubine. After his earthly father died, Amenhotep became pharaoh in 1386, around the age of 15. He was the 9th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. At the time, Egypt was at the height of its wealth and power. He inherited a great deal of money from his father, and he built onto it. His reign marked a time of exceptional prosperity, grandeur, and artistic achievement. Amenhotep spent lavishly on spectacular buildings, including the temple at Luxor and Colossus Memnon. His net worth is estimated at $7.3 trillion in today's money. Amenhotep is considered one of Egypt's greatest pharaohs. His grateful people were prospering as well, and they worshipped him as a living god. Divine as he might have been, he couldn't live forever. He died at 54, after a 39-year reign. The throne went to his son, Akhenaten, and his wife, who might also have been his sister, Nefertiti. Number 4. Wu Zetian, Empress of China, $25 trillion. Born Wu Mei in 624 into a wealthy but provincial family, she was given the great honor of becoming a lesser concubine to the aging emperor. Teenage Mei was not invited to His Majesty's bed. Instead, she had a passionate affair with his favorite son. When the old emperor died, the widowed concubines were unloaded at a convent. But her lover, now Emperor Goizan, rescued her. Mei's frequent nocturnal visits with the emperor resulted in the birth of a son and daughter. Childless Empress Wang grew jealous. When Mei's daughter died suddenly, she accused the empress of using witchcraft to murder her baby. The emperor was furious and ordered Wang arrested. According to legend, her hands and feet were cut off, and she was drowned in a vat of wine. Mei was named Empress Consort in her place. Emperor Goizon was weak in both character and health, and he came to rely on his intelligent and decisive wife. When he was well enough to attend court, Wu sat behind a screen and whispered decisions to him. But as his health declined, she held court all on her own. For 23 years, she was the power behind the throne. Empress Wu was ruthless against her enemies, even if they were her own family. Though many of the stories of her ordering the deaths of her kin, and even her own children, are now reconsidered to have been misogynistic slander. Emperor Goizon died at 55. Wu's third son became Emperor Zongzong, but as soon as he began to cross his mother, he was banished. Wu's youngest son became Emperor Ruzong. but he was not allowed to make any rulings. A rebellion broke out, and the empress crushed it and imposed a police state. With China tightly in her grasp, she dropped the charade that she was merely a regent for her son. She named herself Empress Wu Zetian, Wu the Celestial. Despite the intrigues, she was a favorable ruler. She allowed commoners to take government jobs and created a bureaucracy which reduced corruption. Her reign saw unprecedented opportunity and power for women. She ended years of famine by building granaries, promoted education, literature, and erected grand temples. Wu significantly expanded the Chinese Empire deep into Central Asia. She engaged in a series of profitable wars on the Korean Peninsula. Ample trade along the Silk Road to Europe magnified the empire's wealth. China represented 22.7% of global GDP at the time. Given that the empress essentially owned China's economy, her wealth is estimated at $25 trillion today. In her 70s, Wu's health declined. She took 2 strong and handsome brothers as her bodyguards and lovers, but they could not protect her from her own sons, who forced Wu off the throne and kept her under guard until she died at 80. The only reigning empress in China's history, and arguably the richest woman who ever lived, Wu Zetian is buried under a blank monument in an effort to erase her achievements. Number 3. Akbar the Great, Mughal Emperor, $27 trillion. The third great on our list. Akbar was born in 1542 to Emperor Humayun, son of Babur, a descendant of Genghis Khan, who founded the Mughal Empire in modern-day Pakistan. Akbar was just 14 when his father died and he became emperor. As he grew, he gradually expanded his borders. He took control of much of the Indian subcontinent with Mughal military might and with political, cultural, and economic dominance. As he defeated his enemies, he seized immense wealth, including incalculable amounts of gold, silver, jewels, and 1,000 elephants. He also collected 13 wives and concubines and fathered at least 11 children. Within his treasury were a great many massive gemstones, most of which were mined in the area, including the 105-carat Koh-i-Noor diamond. Akbar unified his religiously and culturally diverse empire through a centralized administrative system. He even won over his non-Muslim subjects by abolishing taxes against them and appointing them to high civil and military posts. Under Akbar, the Indian economy was strong and stable, and it tripled in size. His courts at Delhi, Agra, and Fatehpur Sikri attracted poets, architects, artists, and holy men, and became a center of arts and learning. During his reign, the distinct Mughal style was significantly developed and exported around the world. At the height of his power, Akbar controlled 25% of the world's GDP, giving him a fortune equivalent to $27.5 trillion today. Akbar lived in splendor, far surpassing his European counterparts, but he was still mortal. He fell ill with dysentery and died at 63. He was buried in a fabulous mausoleum. Number 2. Shenzong, Emperor of Song China, $32 trillion. Chao Shu was born in 1048, son of Emperor Yingzong. When the prince was 19, his father died, and he became the 6th emperor of the Song dynasty. Unlike his passive father, he set out on an energetic mission to reform and glorify China. Low-interest loans were offered to peasants, and trade was set up across the empire, so diverse crops and manufactured goods could be traded between regions. With the economy booming, the land was surveyed to correct tax inequities, and government revenue was multiplied. Under Shenzong, China was light years ahead of Europe when it came to government administration and technology. The emperor ordered the training of local militia groups and distributed horses to rural peasants. With his augmented military, he set out to expand the borders of his empire, acquiring an incredible quantity of gold and spoils along the way. Emperor Shenzong controlled a whopping 30% of the world's GDP, equating to $32 trillion today. He had 12 consorts and concubines and at least 24 children. But war was the emperor's downfall. A disastrous defeat at the Battle of Yongli City broke his spirit. In tears, he berated his counselors for letting him down. He then took to his bed with an unknown illness. Emperor Shenzong died in 1085 at the age of 36. He left the empire to his 8-year-old son, Caosong. But infighting soon unraveled Shenzong's many reforms. Before we get to number 1, here is an important honorable mention. Mansa Musa of Mali was born around 1280 and became ruler of the Mali Empire, which comprises parts of modern-day Guinea, Senegal, Mauritania, the Gambia, Mali, and Ghana. His ascent to the throne was a bit mysterious. He claimed that when his cousin, Emperor Muhammad, took off in a ship to explore the Atlantic Ocean, he left Musa in charge. But Muhammad never returned, so Musa was crowned Mansa. But in reality, he may have just staged a coup. Either way, he brought the empire to the height of its wealth and power by expanding its borders. His empire mined great quantities of gold. He also controlled and taxed the trades in salt, copper, ivory, spices, silks, ceramics, and enslaved humans. The Mansa sought closer ties with powerful Muslim sultanates in the Middle East. So, in 1324, he went on a Hajj, or pilgrimage, to Mecca. He traveled with a gargantuan entourage, and what contemporaries described as an incalculable amount of gold. En route, his lavish gifts collapsed the value of gold in Egypt and garnered the attention of the wider Muslim world. Hundreds of camels carried an estimated 18 tons of gold, valued at $1.4 billion today. Musa himself spread rumors of his own inexhaustible wealth, claiming gold grew like a plant in his kingdom, but his largesse may have been all for show. Historians suspect that the wealth he gave away on his Hajj took him years to accumulate, but by the time he reached Mecca, he was broke. He had to borrow from Egyptian merchants to make it back home. However, he landed on his feet. He had recruited many scholars on his journey and made Timbuktu a center of Islamic learning. He constructed numerous mosques and universities in his capital. Musa died around 1337, age 57, after a reign of 25 years. He passed the throne to his son, Magha. Conflicting reports about how much moolah Musa really had make it difficult to place him in this ranking. Some historians claim he was the richest person to ever live. Others argue his fortune was in the neighborhood of 500 billion. Impressive, but not enough to crack the top 10. Time magazine reported that there is no way to put an accurate number on his wealth. Wherever Mansa Musa lands on the list, he is certainly worth a mention. And now, without further ado, number 1, Genghis Khan, Mongol Emperor, $100 trillion. Around 1162, in a yurt on the rolling plains of what is now Mongolia, a boy named Temujin was born. He was the son of Yasugai, chief of the Kamag clan. Their people, the Mongols, were nomadic sheep herders. When he was 9, he was betrothed to Borta, the daughter of another chief, and left to work for her father. On the way home, Temujin's own father stopped at a feast with another tribe, but he was poisoned and died just as he reached home. As Temujin was too young to take his father's place, another member of the tribe took command, and Temujin and his mother and siblings were abandoned to poverty. As he grew, he plotted to retake his birthright. At 15, he rode back to Borta's family, married her, and received as a wedding present an incredibly valuable black sable coat. The young couple fell in love and had many children. One day, a Merkit raiding party attacked their camp. Temujin was undoubtedly being targeted, so his mother put him on a horse and sent him into the mountains. A servant hid Borta in a cart, but she was discovered and taken hostage. Temujin was devastated. He refused to forget her. He gave the valuable black sable to a neighboring chief in exchange for his help attacking the Merkits and rescuing Borta. With his wife back in his arms, Temujin continued his campaign to conquer people across the steppes. He slaughtered many, but preferred to leave them alive so that they could join his army and pay him taxes. He amassed a huge fighting force and came up with some important innovations. First, he scattered conquered warriors amongst his own people so that they would assimilate rather than rise up against him. He also shared the spoils of war evenly and promoted based on merit rather than noble birth. Thus, his conquered people quickly became loyal. In 1206, he had united the people of the Felt Tents and taken the title Genghis Khan. Then he ravaged China, Russia, and the Silk Road territory. He conquered the largest contiguous empire in history, 3 times bigger than Rome. Factoring in the land and plundered treasure he acquired, his net worth is estimated to be a mind-boggling $100 trillion. That would make Genghis Khan not only the richest royal, but the richest person ever to live. He was also famously one of the most prolific fathers. Though Borta had his heart, the Khan also had 6 Mongolian wives and many foreign brides who were the daughters of conquered kings. According to legend, Mongol soldiers were ordered to bring the most beautiful women they captured to the emperor. Genghis Khan may have fathered as many as 3,000 children. In the winter of 1227, the 65-year-old Khan was besieging a city in China when he fell ill and died. Borta arranged a grand funeral for her husband. The location of the great Khan's burial remains a mystery. He and Borta's descendants continued to expand the empire. Then they split up and formed new monarchies. In 2003, researchers found that about 16 million men in Central Asia, or 1 in 8, carry Genghis Khan's Y chromosome. Money may not buy happiness, but it can buy one hell of a legacy. In the next episode, we'll discover how much pocket change the world's modern monarchs are walking around with, how they got it, and what luxury cars, private planes, palaces, and super yachts they're spending it on, as we count down the 10 richest royals alive today. Discover your own family history. Click the link in the description or use the QR code to get a 14-day free trial of MyHeritage. Don't want to wait to see the next episode? Channel members and patrons get exclusive early access to all of my multi-part series. If you would like to support my work, then please click the join button or the Patreon link in the description. Thank you for watching.